Good morning, brothers and sisters. This is Brother Bill here with your Sunday sermon. Now, here's a good man. This man is walking God's path. His name is Kenneth Raymond Miller, and he's an evolutionary biologist who's diametrically opposed to intelligent design. He's also a devout Roman Catholic. Now, he's a fascinating man, and if there's any sense at all in the religious community, his face would be as instantly recognisable as Dawkins or Sagan is to the sceptics. But sadly, the religious don't seem to like science very much, even if it can be used to demonstrate that their beliefs actually have a reasonable basis in reality. No, this smug hypocrite is much more their style, at least here on YouTube. And while I heartily recommend catching anything broadcast with Professor Miller in it, I'd advise saving your brain the heart of putting up with just 10 minutes of William Lane Craig's bollocks. He justifies almost any kind of crime as being right and just, as long as God done it. You know, genocide? Yeah, sure. Infanticide? No props. Rape and paedophilia? Product of the times. Perfectly understandable. The best thing is just how fucking reasonable he makes it all sound. He talks about murdered children, terrified little creatures who've just seen every male adult they've ever known brutally murdered right before their eyes, who can hear their sisters and their mothers' screams as they're getting raped in the background by God's righteous chosen ones. And they've been granted a greater reward than mere earthly suffering. They should be grateful that a Bronze Age savage is hacking them to bits, because they're going to heaven. Well, they're going to heaven unless they've already been indoctrinated by some heathen faith, in which case, well, it's only just started. See, William Lane Craig has written a great big pile of books expanding on his ideas, including that truly reprehensible shite I've just described, and he makes a really good living off them and debating with people, particularly the godless. Oh, and he's good at it. If you lose concentration even for a minute, you'll catch yourself thinking, oh yeah, I see what. So I'm going to prep you for all this snake oil spiel that he comes out with, just so that oh so reasonable tone doesn't fool you into believing any of this twaddle. He's only got 5 arguments, and he doesn't actually believe them himself. He proudly asserts that if and when any of these are debunked, it only proves that he's crap at the apologetics. His faith will be proved by other, as yet obscure means. You can do some research, and you can read some truly epic rebuttals of this shite. But a good litmus test is that if a beardy from a shite comprehensive can demolish them in under 10 minutes, they're really not that great. Number 1 is the Kalam cosmological argument. Now this is handy because you can dress up to be all sciencey, or if circumstances changed, you can phrase it in philosophical doublespeak, which always impresses the audience. You know, it really gives the impression that Craig has got a clue what he's on about. He doesn't, believe me. It's the Wile E. Coyote theory of everything, only it's got the big G in there instead of Acme Incorporated. Everything is to do with cause and effect, all the way back to the Big Bang. So God exists. Oh, sorry, was that a bit quick? Okay. Here's how it works. Science has ascertained that the current state of the universe is consistent with everything in it having once come from a single point, a singularity. Now, between that point and 10 to the minus 43 seconds is a tiny wee portion of time known as the Planck epoch, and it's an era in which the fundamental forces may have been combined. Now, science currently cannot describe events that happened either during the Planck epoch or the singularity that preceded them, so they can't really say that that period of time is known. And since science can't describe what happened, you're quite free to speculate for yourself. Now, William Lane Craig says that God, his God, set the universe in motion round about then. But other popular fantasies out there that don't include deities include things like the simulation concept, like the Matrix. This whole universe is a great big computer simulation. Or the seed theory, where advanced beings are creating or seeding baby universes for their own purposes. I've got one of my own. Maybe time travel's possible. And if it is, it could be our future selves finding out that there is no naturalistic explanation for the universe. So we zip back in the TARDIS and kick it all off ourselves. No bother. Alright, I'm being facetious, but there are literally no end to the number of speculations and theories that you could make, which is why the church gave up on this dead donkey an awful long time ago. Number 2 is fine-tuning. The universe is fine-tuned for life, otherwise we wouldn't even be here. God done that. Really? The universe is unbelievably vast, but even on Earth, life can only exist for a few miles up and down. Right here, the only place we know that supports life, the greatest part of our planet, is hostile to it. Now, there's a faint possibility that life's struggling to exist on Europa or Mars, but either world would exterminate any earthly life form unfortunate enough to reach it. And we haven't proved that there's anything on Europa or Mars either. These objective moral values, objective moral values exist, therefore God exists. Well, firstly, no one's ever demonstrated that absolute moral values actually do exist. Things that we find utterly reprehensible are acceptable to some sociopathic and psychopathic individuals, while things like rape and murder of parents, siblings, mates, or even children are commonplace in the animal world. Is a praying mantis an immoral creature for eating her mate? But even if moral values do exist, how does that prove the existence of Yahweh? The desert god is defined by its astonishingly cruel, immoral behaviour. From sick mind games to torture to genocide, there's not a whole lot Yahweh hasn't inflicted on his creation, at least according to scripture. The fourth one is historical fact surrounding Jesus Christ. Now, it's a bit hard to get the vested interests out of this one. Two of the three Abrahamic religions, two of the three big Abrahamic faiths, require Jesus to have been a real historical figure, performing actions that were prophesied in the older Jewish texts. The biblical scholars that Craig's fond of appealing to would have had a pretty short career if their first book was an apology, saying, well, I didn't actually find anything. If they didn't find jack to prove that Jesus ben Nazareth actually existed as an actual flesh and blood person, they're out of a job. And it's better than that. The Christians need him to not only, well, I say Christians, Craig needs him to be not just real, but capable of some pretty impressive magic. Demonology, necromancy, prophecy, exorcism, and eventually a self-resurrection. Now, I'm happy for you to believe in your zombie carpenter if you really want to. But presenting a book that claims all this bollocks is actually damaging his credibility as a real, live rabbi. James Randi will give you 1 million greenbacks tomorrow morning if you can demonstrate just one tiny wee miracle being true. Pick anything that's in that book and demonstrate that it's an actual historical fact, and I'll accept a 5% finder's fee. 5 is his immediate personal experience of God. Now, I'm actually prepared to give this one to the vast majority of religious people because it's a sincerely held personal belief. But the thing is, Craig's that full of it, I wouldn't be at all surprised if it turns out he's a secret atheist. This one you can reject on the grounds of geography. If Craig was born in Afghanistan, he'd have an immediate personal experience of Allah or Buddha. If he was an English feminist, then the chances are he'd have an immediate personal experience of Wicca. He lives in America, so he has an immediate personal experience of Jesus Christ. Whatever. Alright, here endeth the sermon, brothers and sisters. What I want you to take from this is, I want you to respect all human beings, particularly those who are polite enough to keep their religion to themselves. However, if some dick tries to pull a fast one on you, feel free to point and laugh, eh? Laters, guys.